Welcome to episode 39 of Ring Talk, the weekly Goodwin boxing show with myself, Martin Theobald, and with me in Josh's t-shirt is Steve Goodwin.
Absolutely.
What do you reckon already? It's alright, I like it.
Yeah, my t-shirt got a bit scruntled today and I had one, and Josh said rather than go home he gave me his, so I've squashed it into his.
There you go. There you go, setting trends.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there wasn't any action from yourselves over the last weekend.
No. Do you know, it was nice to have a weekend off.
Yeah.
Really good, really good.
You're building now towards a November show and...
Well, yeah, we got the George Fox on the Matchroom card this weekend, but I can't go with that, as you know. We're off elsewhere. Then we got the Ultimate Boxer the week after, and then we got the November shows to do, and hopefully some things in December as well.
Yeah, because the Ultimate Boxer one's like 50% your land.
Not anymore. McCallum's out.
John's out, isn't he? Yeah.
So we're down to 3, but we got Yusuf Kamari on the undercard as well.
Okay.
So it's all...
So out there you've got Jordan Joseph, Daryl Church, John McIntyre. Are they replacing John?
They've replaced him with Georgie Bacon, kid from Essex.
I don't know. I know the name.
He's had 2. Won 1, lost 1.
Okay.
Victor Smith's got him. He got iced in around in his last fight, I think it was at Brentwood. Someone
asked last week, Chris Glover I think it was, how you doing Chris out in America, who you think will win Ultimate Boxer? But I figured you probably can't.
That's really not appropriate.
You can't give an opinion on that.
No. But before I start, I haven't showed you this, but I had a text from somebody who was very upset with me last week.
Right.
I upset a nice man who used to manage Tom Dallas and now manages Louis Greene, Mark Rowe.
Okay.
And I apologise if I said this, but I'll need to rewatch it back. But apparently I went on about Louis Greene fighting Congo.
Yeah.
And Louis Greene pulling out after the purse bids were won.
Yeah.
And saying how it really pisses me off, and I think it's disgraceful that a boxer pulls out after purse bids. Now, Mark sent me this text saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, and that Louis is not scared to fight anybody, but he moved over to give Chris Congo the chance of fighting somebody else for the title. So I thought, okay, he's injured. Then I see he's fighting Larry Akandayo instead. Yeah. So if I don't know what I didn't infer that he was scared. I didn't think, but what I am still saying the same thing. It's disgraceful that the manager, which is Mark, and the boxer, whoever's representative, went through the purse bid process before withdrawing. I think it's fine to withdraw from a title, but you shouldn't have the situation where you're waiting to... The process of going out to purse bids takes a month. Then you've got to bid for it. Then the results go in. You're talking 6 to 7 weeks you hold somebody up for that.
The only argument I could make against that is if you went through the purse bid situation and then got to the end of it and it was all agreed, and then that IBF European title came up after that. Would you... Yeah. I mean, if that's a bigger opportunity, which unarguably it probably is,
yeah,
I could see an argument for saying that's okay. As much as it's a pain in the arse for everybody else.
The only thing
involved.
Is, but the board fine you for doing that. It's against the rules. So the board's rules are that if you go through to purse bids and then you withdraw after purse bids with no real valid reason and you want to take another fight, you get fined and disciplined normally. So they are the rules that you shouldn't do it. So the guidelines that were given as a manager is not to go through purse bids if we would pull out for another fight. Right. So I would say if I've got a champion and I'm looking for a bigger opportunity, then we go to a purse bid situation and I vacate the title. But I don't sit there, hold, wait, balance the balls and go where I go, because you're messing up with other people's careers. So I do apologise if I inferred that Louis was scared of anybody, because he's obviously not scared of anybody, but I still don't agree with the process of going right the way through and then vacating after the purse bids have gone in. I still think that's wrong, and I don't think anybody is right in doing that.
Yeah. So makes sense.
It's an apology, but not an apology.
It's an apology, but you stand by the ethos of...
Yeah, but if I did come across and say that he pulled out because he was scared, then I do apologise for that, because that's not what I was trying to get across. But I am trying to get across the fact that it was wrong to pull out.
Yeah. Mark, come on in.
Yeah, anytime, Mark, 'cause he's a nice man.
That'd be alright.
Yeah. Yeah.
come down, and I like having another manager to talk to and bounce ideas off.
So if you want to come down, Mike, more than one, I can buy you dinner.
There you go. Excellent. Right, so yeah, we haven't got anything from your stable to talk about from last week. So Georgie Fox this weekend.
He's fighting on the Matchroom card. He's just having, it's his second fight. He fought on a David Hay show on his debut.
He's doing all right for himself, isn't he?
Yeah, he's on a Matchroom card on his second fight, and no, he's definitely a talent. And in time, he'll have to get used to these TV platforms because that's where he'll end up. Yeah. No, good heavyweight, good prospect. Need a bit of time, but he'll get there.
A friend of mine says he needs to have more animal about him.
Totally agree.
Too nice a man.
I'll tell you what though, you wouldn't say that for the security for Andy Brown, because he had a big row with the security at Wembley on the night of Chisora. God dear. Yeah.
Oh right.
I mean, no, he's quite feisty, is George.
Oh right. So if you press the right buttons, it's
he's feisty. He doesn't take no nonsense.
Oh.
And the security, it was quite.
I know Andy Brown doesn't step back.
But they all had a bit of trouble there with the security because he was trying to get in to see his dad and they wouldn't let him, and it got a bit heated.
Oh.
So I have seen he's got a bit of devil about him.
Okay. So you need to unleash it in the ring.
Yeah, but I'm sure he will this time. But I think he's got a lot of he's got a lot of skill, style, and he moves brilliantly for a heavyweight. I think the future's bright for him, and hopefully he has a good experience on the Matchroom show on Saturday.
Yeah. And what's your involvement going to be for the Ultimate Boxer that's coming up Friday, 2 weeks time?
Nothing other than supplying.
But so you've got the three lads there. Is it difficult? You've got conflicting interests of three lads.
Look after all three. Myself, Kev, and Josh will go. We'll look after all of them. Hopefully they don't get drawn together.
Yeah.
Unless it's in the final or something. But what can we do? We've got to provide them with the opportunities, and we have to deal with the cards that we're dealt with on the night, and the draw we're dealt with this week. I think they're doing it. But my job is to make sure that everything's okay, that they're settled, that everything's working well for them on the night, and then hope that they all do as well as they can possibly do.
What happens because it's on November the 2nd, isn't it? I was trying to work this out the other day. Joel, Jordan, Daryl are all scheduled for
1st of December, which is 29 days.
If any of them get knocked out...
No, that's still clear, it's 28 days.
Oh, okay, right.
It may mean if they have too hard a tournament, not Joel, I think Joel go with Miles, but the Jordan and Daryl, that could easily be pushed back to March if they're not.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, are they going to want to go through again? Joel has got an English title opportunity, so he can push with that. I think obviously last time Miles pulled out, but obviously Joel I would assume if he gets onto a box and doesn't get injured or hurt, will fulfil his fight with Miles. That's the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so we're going to plough on because we've got a whole load of questions that are getting more and more educated and delving each week. So I quite like them. So well done. I'll give you a gold star, or whatever. But
we got the one from last week to do as well.
Paul Alto, I've got that noted down somewhere.
You carry on, I'll let you crack on.
We'll start off with probably the biggest talking point of the week for yourselves. We've not been skirting over it, it's just on you. It's coming up from Yestin. Always get that wrong. With Dereck Chisora leaving you for Hay, what are the benefits of him doing that, if there are any?
Right, let's give the background as to why and how, because I like to do that. I always had the agreement with Dereck when I took over that if he felt that I wasn't doing a great job for him, then I would step aside. That was always my agreement with him. If he didn't feel, or if he felt somebody could do a better job.
Yeah.
And obviously I rebuilt him back from the Dylan White loss, and I rebuilt him back from the Caballel loss. We staged the right fights to get him in and everything else, and he obviously done it in the ring. But the week after the fight with Takam, after the pay-per-view was mentioned with Dylan White, we had a meeting and he said that I feel I can do a better job myself. That was his words. Right. So I said, okay, that was our agreement. So best of luck. He said, I think you've done a great job, but I can do a better job myself. So that was my agreement. I don't back down on what we agreed in the first place, so that's the end of it. He didn't say it was going to be David Hay at that stage, but that became apparent to me. And then they announced the announcement. I spoke to David Hay afterwards. I have no issues. I wish them all the best. I don't have a problem with it because nobody broke any agreement that I had. So there's no sourness or whatsoever from my point of view. So I thought we'd deal with that first and get that out of the way. Now we'll deal with the questions.
Yeah.
So the question was, what are the benefits of him leaving for David Hay?
I think that probably is twofold for you and for him.
What are the benefits for me?
What are the benefits for you? What do you... I mean,
what benefit do I get by Dereck leaving?
Yeah,
I get honestly a lot less aggravation in my life. I get, I want quality time in my life as well, because I don't need Dereck Chisora's money. I don't need anybody's money in boxing. I do it because I love it and I form an affiliation with a boxer, and the boxers I have I care about, and I want them to care about me as well. And if a boxer doesn't care about me, then that's fine. It's fine for them to go. From my point of view, I have a lot less stress now to deal with, genuinely. A lot less aggravation. And
that's without fight week coming up, because
yeah,
you probably can't, it can't be gone into on here, but the hours that are put into in fight week around Dereck in general, I know are significant.
Yeah, and so therefore I haven't got that anymore. And you can obviously, you can argue that how much is my time worth? If, as a financial advisor, I earn a significant amount of money. If I spend that time doing that work rather than boxing, it's a no-brainer as to where my time is best spent. So it doesn't concern me from that point of view. And yes, it is a lot of work, but I wish them all the best together. And we'll see. I think time will tell. What are the benefits? I can tell you what the benefits of staying with me are. The benefits of David Hay. He's got good commercial. David's got a great commercial name, so perhaps he'll use his commercial contacts as leverage to sponsor Dereck. Although that's always going to be a problem getting a commercial brand to sponsor Dereck, I think. So I'm not sure that's an advantage. In terms of negotiating skills, time will tell. Let's see. David's been good at negotiating for himself, but with negotiating for the whole model and the Dereck Chisora thing, I think time will tell. And I think this is something I'll be able to answer more in a year and be able to honestly say on here that I believe, because I'd honestly say if I felt that David done more than I thought I could do, then I'd be honest and say, I'd be honest and say that. But at the moment, I don't know. So I think, what are the benefits? We'll see.
At the end of it all, the intention is for Chisora to retire from the sport with enough money whereby he can comfortably live his life outside of the ring until he gets old.
It's the same for every boxer.
It's the same for everybody, isn't it? Dereck's at that upper echelon whereby he can earn the money to do that.
You get a lot of boxers that finish at a really high level, don't have the money, don't finish properly, things go wrong.
Yeah. Does it harm the Goodwin boxing brand in terms of Dereck not being there?
You tell me. I don't know, to the people out there, you tell me, does it affect? I think I've done a great job. I think nobody could have done a better job than I did. I think that I look after boxers through thick and thin, unlike other people that just want the thick. They just want the good. So I feel I've done a great job. But if people, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. We have, Nicola Adams I look after, Frank Buglioni I look after. I've got boxers at high level coming to me all the time to potentially look after them. I don't have a problem with what I do. I think I do a fantastic job for all the people I look after. But does it? I don't feel it. I don't feel it does damage to our brand. I think the argument could be, why don't I tie him in or make him honour a contract? But no, that wasn't what I agreed to do. So
I think that's not the way you do business generally, is it? In terms of boxing, it's,
if I genuinely feel that somebody else could do a better job than I, then it's very rare does it happen, but I'd be more than happy to do that. But that doesn't really happen.
I think the Tyrone McCulloch one you used a while back.
Yes, Tyrone McCulloch I managed. He was in Ireland. I'm in here. At that point, in Ireland, MTK had taken over in Ireland. So I said to him, you're better off with MTK than me. They can do a better job for you. And I could not have done for Tyrone McCulloch in Ireland what they've done for him in Ireland. Over in England, I can do. There's nobody that can do, in my opinion, can do a better job than I. But in Ireland, that doesn't work. So if an Irish boxer came to me tomorrow, it'd be the same. Steve Collins Jr.
Yeah.
Now Steve Collins Jr. came to my office, they'll tell you, and we spoke to Steve. He wanted me to manage him. I said to him, because you're in Ireland, you're better off with MTK.
Yeah.
Or somebody based in Ireland. But Steve wanted to sign with me. But I try and do the right things by people.
Yeah, so you have a track record of turning opportunities down.
If I believe it benefits the boxer. With Dereck Chisora, I wouldn't have said that that's... you can argue that without me, he may not have been here.
Yeah.
Obviously not without him. I'm not discrediting what he did with Carlos Takam, but if you know what I mean.
But the opportunities are grafted out that may not necessarily have been there were it not for your diligence and hard work.
Well, what you'll see in 12 months' time is what happens if it goes wrong against Dylan White. What happens if he loses to Dylan White? What happens if he doesn't do the Dylan White deal, which I suppose we can come on to in a minute, and he fights somebody else and it goes wrong? What happens then? Who's going to pick the pieces up?
What interests me about it is the Joe Joyce scenario. That's, to me, there's a little bit. It seems like a backstop almost, that whereby if the Dillian White fight goes ahead, if he loses to Dillian White, I can see that Joe Joyce fight being signed off. And I know there was a lot of negotiation ongoing around.
I protected Dereck from that Joe Joyce fight, right? Because David was desperate to get him in that ring because he said that Dereck would get smashed, and I protected Dereck and got a better deal than the Joe Joyce fight. People forget that I had to protect him from David Hay and all the bad press and the thing, and we went for the Takam and got that deal done instead.
Yeah.
So I feel I've done a great job for him.
Do you think he'll fight Dillian White?
I'm not sure because what's going on at the moment, in my opinion, is one of two things. Knowing how David operates and what operates, it would not surprise me that the deal was signed before he came out as Chisora's manager.
Right. Not to say there's an overlap between you and David and the fight.
Absolutely not.
No.
I was done 6 weeks ago. But what I'm saying is the way that David is a very, very good man at promoting and building up fights. He's brilliant at it. So my logic says the deal was done prior to him signing management. And what they then do is build the public around the deal's not signed, because it keeps it all in the public domain. Who's Dylan White going to fight? And the deal's already done, right? And so when it comes out next week or this week, the fight's just been signed. It was probably done 2 weeks ago.
Some might say the Bellew fights were like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say that.
Well, there we go. So the same sort of thing again, right? Now that could be the case, and I would believe that's probably favourite. Because I can't see David Hay signing him and then not doing the deal and the deal collapsing. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. However, it could be that on the second hand, that what's really going on, they really are negotiating with Eddie Hearn and it's hitting brick walls. So one or the other is happening. And again, if you asked me, I would say that the former has happened, but I don't know, and I generally don't know. I don't have a clue. Time again will tell.
It could well be that Joe Joyce is that other pawn in that game. That it's always been that Dillian White has got all the options, Dereck Chisora has none. By being with Hay can now say, well, actually, he does have an option. He can go and fight on a PBC show with Joe Joyce. So actually, we don't need Dillian White at all. We can
perhaps, and that you see that is potential. But again, we could have done that deal anyway. But for me, I'd rather fight if I was Dereck. I'd rather fight Dillian White than Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
But maybe now. That will be a different. Who knows? Again, time will tell. I think I'll look back on this in about 6 to 12 months, and I'll be able to say a lot more than I would be able to say now. Really,
there's probably two outcomes, isn't there? Realistically, one is that it's a success and he makes all the money in the world. The other is that it burns in flames and the two of them chuck glass bottles at each other.
But the other thing I would say is that even if it was the first one, option one, he makes shed loads of money. Why wouldn't he have made that with me? And why wouldn't? And how do you know he wouldn't have made more with me?
Yeah. There you go.
There we go.
So hopefully that covers enough about Dereck Chisora. Yeah. Gives people the answer they want. But
yeah.
All right. We'll move on. Paul Oldtie. I'm not linking these two questions, by the way. If you could slap one person in the boxing world with a big salmon. Very specific. Who would you choose?
I've got two, but I can't. I'd love to answer the question. I'll tell you what I'll do, Paul. I'll tell him privately, but I can't say on here. Come on, I can't. Because if I say who I'm going to slap, there's two of them I'd slap. So I really would like to. But seriously, I can't. You can't mention names on here.
All right, we'll move on. CM Sport, who were very heavily backing young Zach Chelli at the weekend in his impressive performance against Umar Sadiq. I saw on last week's show discussing how important it is to market themselves. Is this something you speak to boxers about when you sign them, or when they find out ticket sales are hard going? So I'm kind of rewording.
Both. I mean, when they come to see us, I've just had a new boxer sign with us today, recommended by Eddie Burden, and He saw what we've done with AD, so he's come to us. So we've been through the whole thing about the marketing. We're holding a media day here for boxers in 2 weeks. They're going to have loads of stuff done for
them. So that's where they have photos, they green screen themselves,
we do all that.
Shadow boxing.
Yeah, we do all that. Nobody else does this, do they? We do all that for them, get all their footage so we can promote them.
So that's the stuff as well, like it goes out on social media on fight posters, but you can use it at York Hall and
exactly. So we do a lot of that. We also, what people don't realise, I also go out, if a boxer's got a potential sponsor, I go out and meet the sponsors and I cultivate them. So for example, you might have a sponsor who might give a boxer 200, might be offering £200, and I might get them something like £400 a month from them. So I will go out there and get their sponsors and get them some serious money, and that's what I do as well. People don't see I do that. So you actually get help to get the sponsors, and it's not just getting the money; it's getting the increased level of funds for them. So I do that as well, and we help them. We do newspaper, their local newspaper articles if they need them. And you know, I'm not going to go through it. There's a famous thing where a boxer had a bit of a problem selling tickets, and we've done something for his local paper and trebled his ticket sales in a week. So we do everything that we can do, and we are. I don't know anybody that does what we do specifically for an individual boxer to help promote them individually. And
you give them a nicely worded document when they sign up as well.
You've seen that?
I wrote it. Paul Altai again. What are the 3 most important attributes you'd look for in a boxer who you were considering signing?
Okay, number one, them as a person.
Yeah.
That comes to me before anything else. I want to feel that I want to help them and work with them. We've just covered this. If I'm going to give my time and emotion to somebody, I want to feel that that's somebody I want to give my time.
I know you've released people before that you haven't got along with. It's a nice way of putting it. Have you turned anyone down that you haven't got along with?
Yeah.
Okay. Without naming names of anybody.
Yeah. You can basically, what you do is you have a meeting with them, and then you sort of suggest that they go to other people and look here. So you don't say, I don't want you. So I think there'll be people out there who are boxing now that I've turned down, but they sort of don't know I've turned them down as such, but I've sort of guided them in.
Opened other avenues.
Opened other avenues for them, yeah. So, yeah, there's boxers like that, and there are boxers we release. You've got to, in this world, you've got to remember, most people in boxing, we've seen some bad press this week on Twitter with managers that have been accused of doing some bad things to boxers. I don't want to exploit anybody. I want to give them my love in a platonic sense and help them. So therefore, I want to have a relationship that I want to be with them and help them and get on with them. So it's got to be like that. And if it's not, so that's attribute number one. If you've got attribute number one, they then got to have the right attitude towards training. They might be a nice person, but then you want them to have the real commitment to boxing. You want them to be committed. And again, you're not necessarily going to find that out at the first meeting. That might develop that they're not committed.
Yeah.
So you want them to be committed.
Do you tailor that? Say if you've got a journeyman, someone like a Jan Balog that comes along, do you have to reassess your expectation of what you're wanting out of that person? Because we all know Chris Lay, for instance, is retired now, so it's a good example. Never used to train, because he fought so often, he never bothered sparring. He'd keep.
But he could get away with it. But he was fine to manage it. Yeah. But then he was managed well by John Pegg, who looked after him.
Yeah.
And I've got journeymen, and they're all lovely. They're lovely people that I can work with. But again, Phil Williams I look after, Jamie Spate I look after, Eddie Bjork I look after, Jules Phillips I look after. You know, you've got Larry Olubamiwo's coming back in December. I look after him.
Is he?
Yeah.
After we discussed him last week.
So I look after these. I've got another one. I've got a couple of others coming through as well. So I've got to like them. I want to work with them, because with a journeyman, I take such little money off them. I want them to build up and have a nice life and get deposits for their houses and do well. So that's really what I'm doing in that role. So you've got to want to, for what I'm earning off of a journeyman fight, which might be £100.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not doing £100. Isn't going to make my life great. So I'm doing it because I want them to do well. So again, I've got to like them. So they've got to be committed. And even as a role as a journeyman, they've got to be committed. There's no point in them ringing me up and going, I'm 4 pounds overweight, I can't make the fight. If we make a fight at weight, they've got to make that weight. That's their commitment.
Yeah. Or help them marry women that are well out of their league.
Like Jamie Spate.
Yeah,
we've covered that, So that would be the second point. And the third thing is that they want to work. So if they're going to be a home fighter, that they actually want to work at it. In other words, work at their marketing as well. So they've got to have the commitment to the boxing and the commitment to the marketing. They've got to be a nice person. If we've got all of them, now I haven't mentioned ability yet, right? Because you might say, why haven't I mentioned ability? Well, of course they have to have a certain level of ability, but you can sometimes get a little jewel in the crown, like you had with, what's his name now, who did the unlicensed fall for the world title over in Matchroom, who came from unlicensed.
Oh, the one who stepped in for Timothy Bradley, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've just had a brain freeze, and he headlined...
The one that Brook dropped out.
Yeah. I've had a brain freeze, but you can get kids come from the unlicensed scene and actually come all the way through. Nick Blakewell come from the unlicensed scene and become British champion. So because somebody's coming from unlicensed, you can't just rule them out. You've got to say, let's see how you are, because give them a chance to develop, get them with a good trainer, make sure that they're trying, and then decide. So don't rule people out because on the face of it, they're not an ABA champion. Yeah. That's my view with that.
All right, LPC123 on Twitter. Have you thought more about answering the question that Paul Altai asked last week? So, what's the most difficult decision you've had to make?
I've got one, but I'm not going to mention names.
Okay.
So, I was discussing this with Kev today, and I said about this, and he said, I don't think you really can mention, but I'm going to mention it because it really is the truth, but I'm not going to mention it. Sometimes with boxers, they do the wrong thing. I've had a boxer that have been very close. I would say I was really close with. So close it'd been around my house, so close that we knew them very well, so close that he had told me that as long as he ever had a career, he would never leave because I'd done such a great job for him, etc, etc, etc. And one day somebody spoke in his ear and I got a letter from him that wasn't written by him, but it was 2 pages of bullshit saying what a terrible, terrible manager I was, and that he wanted termination of his management contract because I'd done this and that, and it was just all lies and bullshit.
Was this the one that you met in a restaurant somewhere or a pub?
I have done.
Yeah, okay, I know.
So I have done. I've met quite a few in restaurants.
No, I know you. I think I know you.
I'll tell you afterwards. But so, and what then happened was I got this letter. Now, my view on this is, okay, you become an arse, you become a dickhead. So we'll go the whole way. I'll fight this and we'll go through the whole routine of doing it. Now what he wants me to do is release him from the contract because this other person's encouraged him to do this letter. Sweet talked him in his ears. Now normally my principle's fine, but at that particular time I was just going through this heart thing with the heart specialist. So the decision I had was, I was going through a little bit of, I wasn't feeling that well, I wasn't feeling great. Do I let him get away with it, or do I really go for it? Do I really go the full hog?
Yeah.
And normally I would go the full hog, but because I wasn't feeling that well, I made the decision to let him get away with it, and I let him go, with no penalties, no compensation, nothing, despite the fact that... So the difficult decision that was to let somebody go who was being a real... and he got away with it for that sort of thing. And I hope that karma comes along and bites him.
Fair enough. Right, Mikey at Analyse Boxing. What are your thoughts on Amir Khan refusing to fight Brook without a rehydration clause, which is where Brook said I'll fight him at 147, but he's not allowed more than £10 come fight day. Is he desperately building barriers to deny the fight happening, or does he have a fair point?
Well, you haven't got a fair point because it depends on what title you're fighting for, because some authorities do have that.
I think it's generally accepted there won't be a world title, it's just a fight.
So I don't think you can impose rules that don't exist outside. The rules of the fight should be the rules of the governing body, which is the British Boxing Board of Control, unless you're fighting for a title with a body that has a rehydration limit.
Lee Purdy.
Lee Purdy's the one.
That's how they're racking my brains.
Frank Buglioni is fighting in Monaco with a £10 rehydration clause.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's fighting under a governing body's rules. You don't just decide that you want... What gives Amir Khan the right to decide I want to impose my own rules to a fight outside any governing body's rulings? No. So it's... I don't know who he thinks he is, but I would say that him and Brook are at similar levels of their career. It's a fight that should have happened years ago. They're both no longer world top stars. Get on and do the fight. But I think Amir Khan has always been somebody who actually feels that he's much higher profile and much more important than he actually is.
It feels like one final attempt at making it, but if I'm going to make it, I'm going to leverage my authority all over you.
Exactly.
Yeah, mind games almost,
exactly.
Before you've even got a fight.
Exactly.
LPC123 again. Other than promotion on Twitter, what other things do you do to promote your fighters? And of those other things, what provides the most return on investment? So you touched on the other things.
I think we've answered. We've covered it. We do.
Yeah.
It's not. There's only so much you can do. I can't run down the street with placards. But we've done things like press conferences before, which don't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't generate anything. We've
Someone out there come up with an alternative to a press conference.
Because they just don't work. We do the end-to-ends. They work. They get quite a lot of feedback. But we do a lot of stuff for the boxers, and we will do. And I will go out and see their sponsors and generate leads and work on. It's not just Twitter. It's Facebook. It's Instagram. We create their posters. We do more social media than virtually anybody does for an individual fighter.
Yeah.
And I go out and do the visits that other people don't do. So I think we can't do a lot more. But if somebody can come up with a better version of the press conference, we'll do it.
Yeah. That's your challenge for next week. Someone come up with it. Craig Scott, formerly of Fight Talk, now Boxing Social. Just say that to annoy Sam O'Reilly. Steve Goodwin, is it possible for a fighter to have a padded record in the reverse sense? So, do some fighters receive favourable opportunities because they've lost, in big capital letters, to big names, as opposed to having won anything of merit? And then he messaged me exactly who he meant.
Yeah, and that's where you're getting people that say step in, like Price stepped in at last minute to fight Kuzmin, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then quit after 4 rounds, was it? So he's gone in there, took a big payday, knowing full well that Eddie Hearn's already promised him another opportunity. So, but he stepped in to save the fight. So that's what happens. David Allen took it against Ortiz, didn't he?
Yeah.
And you get the situation where that's what the promoter will come along to a boxer and go, do this fight for us, I know you're going to get beat, I'm going to pay you well though, and I'll build you back up afterwards. So of course it happens.
Okay. 2 questions related to the same thing. You'd have to have seen what these people are referring to understand it. Lee Witcher will start with, in a year of ups and downs for boxing, where does Tommy Coyle's debagging of Eddie Hearn rank for you? Got to be top 5. So this is Hearn walking on the escalator and Coyle just whips his shorts down.
Do you know what? It's really funny, but full credit to Eddie Hearn.
He took it well.
And he's allowed him to put it out.
Yeah.
Because he could have said, you're not putting that out.
Yeah.
So Tommy Coyle's a funny guy. He's supposed to be a very nice guy, so good luck to him. And full credit to Eddie Hearn for not blocking it.
No, I agree. And Tommy Coyle, because I mean, he was fighting over in America. He's not the most talented fighter in the world, but some of the stuff he does for charities, for young people around Hull, is just phenomenal. Like, he's one of those real feel-good people. I've never met the guy, but he comes across as such a decent bloke.
No, he does.
Got the best intentions at heart.
100%.
Mary Brixton on Twitter, if a boxer pulled your pants down in public, what would you do? It's not a challenge, by the way.
I'd probably have to sit there and say, now all the other boxers and people watching this are going to feel very in awe of me. So I'll probably be proud.
There you go. Well, thankfully for Eddie, his was filmed from behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Daniel Smith on Twitter. A bit of a sore issue for boxing, this one, really. With the fighting at the Warren card on Saturday, which was horrendous, wasn't it? It looked so bad. When Steve is planning a card, does different fighters' fan bases come into consideration to try and avoid potential clashes? Has he ever not put certain fighters on the same card because of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a fight once by called Divine Liam Shinquin for the Southern Area title.
Right.
Scrapped it. Luton Watford, can't happen.
Oh.
So we scrapped the fight. We often do try our best to segment fighters from doing it, or if we think there could be a flashpoint, we get extra security to deal with that.
Yeah.
We've only ever had 1 or 2 incidents at our shows, and we do our best to ensure that even if there are rival fans, that it's we've got that it's curtailed. You can never stop it all the time, but some promoters have a lot more of this sort of trouble than others.
I've seen maybe 2 occurrences in all the shows I've been at for yourselves. I think I've seen 2 occurrences where it's kicked off.
There was one in the bar.
One in the bar and one by the front door, the exit point. Both of which were stamped out by Andy Brown, SIA Security, within 30 seconds. Separated, people chucked out, job done. People dragged out, like literally dragged out. Mm-hmm. But the stuff about the weekend, Johnny Garton's been on however many of your shows. He's always got 200 Millwall fans.
Wembley, we've had him on. I've had him on at the Wembley card at McGuigan's.
Yeah.
So we've had him on various cards.
He's always got 200 plus Millwall fans.
Same as he sold 230, I think he sold at the weekend. Yeah. We've always had them at our shows.
I've never seen any issue come from that. And I'm not saying therefore it's all the Gary Corcoran supporters, because I'm not. I'm just saying.
I had Johnny Garton, I think, fight the same day as John O'Donnell, and they had big words, and there was a travelling community. And Johnny Garton, there was no trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was just the swell of people that was getting bigger, and if the security don't stamp stuff out immediately, it becomes a bigger problem 5 minutes later.
I also want to put a thing out here. Andy Brown and Security Alert are fantastic.
Yeah.
And we believe we've got the best security firm by a country mile, and they are not scared about steaming in to quell it. Because if you've got security that don't quell it when it starts, it gets out of control. It's like a fire. But from what I understand, the security were very, very slow they let it all build before they actually got stuck in or tried to stop it. And I think that I mean, I'm not saying that any other security firm could have done it different, but I think we're very happy with our security.
At the point it becomes reactive rather than preventative,
yeah,
you've got a problem.
And we will look at a fight, we will look at a show and think, I'll say to Andy, I've got these people here, these people here. Don't think there's guaranteed to be any trouble, but we need to watch for that. And we actually identify any remote potential things before the show starts.
And actually, what's worth noting as well with Andy Brown and his team is that I've seen fighters where they're knocked out on the canvas, like rolled over, put into the recovery position. That causes a melee around ringside because you've got family members, you've got mothers, wives, daughters, brothers, dads, all want to get in there and be with that person. When it's not safe, that person needs the medical assistance. I've seen that security team so many times do the right thing. It's probably the hardest thing you could do is stop, someone who wants to be with their loved one, but they stop them from getting in there. And they say, look, let them be looked after. You can see them as soon as they're on their feet. Must be such a hard thing to do in that emotional setup, but they always do such a fantastic job of it. A side question to that, pulling the punch on Twitter. I'd be interested in hearing Steve's view on security within his shows. Obviously Frank's had issues at his, but I've been to a lot of Steve's shows and never seen any issues. Is this achieved through planning or just getting lucky with which crowd you attract?
Planning. They're probably lucky. I suppose there's a bit of luck involved because they were good. But I suppose one day we could go off. But I think we do plan well, and we do think about things.
Yeah.
Because if we get trouble, people aren't going to come back. So it's really important to try and make people feel safe.
Yeah. So. And I think often common sense dictates a lot of stuff. So if you see fighters have pockets of fans, don't they? So they'll congregate up in the balcony or they'll congregate down at ringside. I think people often have enough common sense to realise that's one pocket of fans, then the next lot might go along there. They don't tend to park up next to one another.
No.
Boxing Boy on Twitter, what's the chance of Steve getting a boxer or two from his stable I've lost the will to speak at the moment, to donate something we can auction off for Isla Caton's battle against neuroblastoma?
And so that's what let them we get so much stuff that we give to different charities who come to us. So if you want something specific, come and ask us for it. We'll try and get it for you.
Message me, Boxing Boy, and we'll
whatever you want. Yeah, whatever you think you want, then give us a show.
Cool. Also, does he feel like he'll be moving up to do bigger shows, or is he happy on the small hall circuit?
Right, you can't do bigger shows unless you've got television.
Yeah.
So the bottom line with it is you've got to be real. The gap between you've got small hall and you've got TV, and by TV I'm talking about paid TV where boxers are paid TV money.
Not you're paying the production to get TV.
And boxers are paid small hall money on TV. So when I talk about TV, we're talking Frank Warren, we're talking Matchroom, we're talking potentially the Ultimate Boxer type thing when they're in a competition, and we're talking about top of the bills ITV Channel 5.
Yeah. That's
what I'm talking about TV. It's very, very difficult to get that. I'm not talking about these other TV things where you're paying production, and I don't want to go into what boxers are getting paid and the deals they are, but they're going into massively hard fights for what I consider to be pretty poor money. So it's difficult, but it's very hard to get that TV. And I don't want TV unless the boxers are getting paid well. Yeah. So we have a void here. Hopefully one day people will realise that we could run a TV station better than 95% of promoters out there, and we will get a TV thing. So it's not by choice, but where we are, if we go to bigger venues, then whoever's promoting is going to make a loss because you're running on very tight budgets on small hall, very tight.
Does it tempt you something like the December the 1st one, where you've got so many title fights? And obviously, as you say, the margins are so thin on it anyway.
Yeah.
Does something like that, does that give you a little spark and think, oh, maybe we could have moved that to... And the problem, I know the problem, that you've either got your call or you've got a 5,000-seater copper box.
Yeah.
Or, but does it ever when you look at the standard of that card, does that then spark something? Say,
but how are you going to justify another £20,000 in venue hire?
Yeah.
Who wants to lose that?
Yeah.
That's the problem, isn't it? You need a venue in between the two that's got the same atmosphere and doesn't cost, because it just costs so much. Yeah. So therefore, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay for that? So it's really, really difficult. You need either sponsors or TV money, and all you've got at the moment are people wandering around to you who want you to put your content on for free. If I wanted to go on TV tomorrow, we can go on TV tomorrow.
Yeah.
They want content for free, or you pay for production, and what's the point?
Or you'd stream somewhere, stream it for free, and again, you said before, the ticket sales.
What's the point? What's the point? All you're getting about December the 1st card, where can I watch it for free? Not being funny, fuck off and buy a ticket off a boxer.
Agree.
Go fucking put some money into people's hands who are up there fighting. Don't ask me where you stream it for free.
It's such a good card as well. Like, if you have to travel, come and travel and see it.
Come and see it. Don't want something. Why should these guys go in the ring for free when they're not getting TV money, and you expect to sit at home and get a live stream for free? Now, if other promoters want to do that and devalue their boxers, which is what I think it does,
yeah,
because they're not getting a benefit from it, then that's so be it. But I can't justify that.
Yeah,
can't justify it.
Moving on. Tia Ricky 05 on Twitter. Apologies if I've pronounced that wrong, which I probably have. If Frank Buglioni puts on a show in Monaco, where do you see his next move? Some great fights at domestic level, Buatsi, Yard, Johnson, Burton, etc. Who does he want next?
Well, Frank's got to go and win this fight. This will give him a top 10 probably world ranking.
Yeah.
So when you're in the top 10 world ranking, you've then got to look at the options. Now, we were offered the fight with Yard. Not for the money they said. We covered this last week, and we're going to go over old ground again. We were offered the fight with Yard. We were offered the fight with Burton, but the money was terrible. Absolutely. If I told you what he got offered for Isaiah Burton, it was ridiculous.
Right. So, less than the first one, presumably?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I know the first one was more of a... He had a lot to gain.
Yeah. Was it less? No, it probably wasn't. No, it wasn't less in the end, but... It wasn't. It was.
But his stock's risen since.
But his stock's. I mean, he's been British champion, and the rematch is worth more than the first fight. And we'll put it this way: it was a third of what was tentatively on offer when he was going to do the rematch after the first one.
Right.
So it was reduced because he lost to Johnson. It was a third of what he was going to get before. So it really wasn't that valuable. That money wasn't that valuable. So the Burton wasn't very good. Yard money was okay. But he's going to fight obviously in the away corner on a Frank Warren show, which I
think you said before, where you didn't go down the contract route, so you don't know what you'd have been signing.
We don't know what the deal. We just had a number. We didn't go down whether there was any. We didn't get any further than the number. But the deal in Monaco was a better deal. If he wins in Monaco, then he said we've got a world 10 ranking. We can have a good look at the options. It's very hard to rule anything out. I'm not going to rule out. We're not going to rule out the Yard fight totally, but it's a fight that we'll look at with other fights. Frank is not contractually obligated to Matchroom. He's not signed to Matchroom now,
right? Because
once he lost the fight against Johnson, he's then no longer contracted. He's just fight by fight.
Okay.
So he's a free agent, and he'll be governed by the results and what happens to be on offer. But we will sit down and make the right move every time. You know, we've been offered the Beterbiev fight before. We've been offered Andre Ward before. We've been offered these fights. There is no point Frank taking a fight for the money that was the money that wasn't life-changing money, and it really wasn't life-changing money, to probably get smashed to pieces, and then and have a really hard fight for no money. Now you can argue Callum Johnson took a chance at a world title, but he didn't win the world title, so his resume is going to say fought and got knocked out for a world title. Now, if you're going to fight for a world title, you want to have a realistic chance of winning it, in my opinion.
And his reputation has probably gone up, but his position hasn't probably moved.
This is the thing I have. What does reputation do?
Yeah, it doesn't pay a mortgage.
Does it pay a mortgage? Does it give you money in retirement? Does it make your situation better? His reputation is better for taking a beating in a brilliant fight.
Yeah.
Now, I would argue that probably isn't the right move, but that's my view. Unless you got life-changing money where you could exit the sport, which I would hope is going to be the case for Rocky Fielding. So in the Rocky Fielding case, if he's getting the money that I would hope he would get, and I would hope he's getting 7 figures, then that makes a sense. But Frank wasn't offered anywhere near that. It was nothing like that. So you're not getting, by the time you pay your taxes, your manager, your trainer, and your camp expenses, he's going to walk out with not great money. What's the point if you know you're not going to win?
Yeah. All right. I suspect we're going to be skipping over this one. Vintage Unai on Twitter. Biggest fraud in boxing.
I can't. What do you want to do? Now, if I answer that, I'll have a legal letter on my doorstep in 48 hours.
And you'll be at the board next week.
And I'll be at the board next week.
LPC123, final question. I've left this to the end, so it might need some running over. So this is in reference to Jake Ball pulling out of the Craig Richards fight yesterday. So 5 days notice, is it?
Yeah.
Something like that. So he says, forgive me for my lack of boxing knowledge, but when a fighter pulls out this close to the day, does he have to provide any official documentation, medical or otherwise, for the reason of pulling out?
Okay, the answer to that is yes. But now, by the way, I'm not saying Jake Ball is not injured. I think he is injured, right?
He put the photo up, didn't he, with his knuckles swollen.
So I think going into a big fight, you've got to be 100% right. So if he's injured, he shouldn't be fighting.
But wouldn't many fighters say, I'm never 100%? Like, I might be 80%.
Correct. So that would be but that's the issue. But I don't want to. Jake Ball is not. He's trained by the Ingles, whoever manages him now, and he's under Matchroom. It's not for me to comment on Jake Ball particularly. But what I would say, if a boxer wants to get out of a fight, you can go to the doctor with a bad back. You can get a note from a doctor saying you're not fit to box. You may not have a bad back. You could go to a doctor and say, I've got a rotator cuff injury. Yeah. I've got an elbow injury. I'm sore. Oh, we need to do further investigations. Put me on the waiting list. You'll get to see somebody in 4 weeks. But in the meantime, doc, can you sign me off? So, anybody can get signed off from a fight. Let's be quite honest. And again, the board are going to get the document, and they're legitimately signed off by the doctor because he doesn't know. It may be 4 weeks' time they realise it's not that bad. But anybody can feign a back injury, right?
And I've known cases. This isn't the Jake Ball case, by the way. It's not the Jake Ball case at all. But people that have said they got bad hands. Obviously, as a boxer, if you've got bad hands, you're fucked. That have had very, very high-level other things that are going on that have meant they can't fight, and they'll do it at very short notice. But something's going on that says I can't. It's not safe for me to be fighting in 5 days' time. Not safe to be fighting in a week's time, 2 weeks' time. Therefore, the hand is always a great way of getting out of fights, isn't it?
Yeah, but the problem is, in terms of the medical thing, you can go through the medical thing and get a boxer can always get a medical certificate because the doctor is signing what he believes to be the case. The board receive a doctor's note, but you know how easy it is to get a doctor's note to sign you off work for 3 days. You only need the doctor to say you're not fit to box next Saturday.
Yeah.
So the answer to that, yes, they do, but what's it worth sometimes?
Yeah, I feel the whole thing, like, Craig's right to be enraged about it. Jake's probably right to pull out, damage his hand. They're both kind of in the right, but it's just a horrible situation, isn't it?
It happens all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's part of boxing, right? So you've just got to accept. Mark Shinkwin pulled out against John McIntyre last time.
Yeah.
He hurt himself, and he genuinely hurt himself. John McCallum pulled out of Ultimate Boxer. Unfortunately, it's the same injury he's pulled out with before of other fights, so perhaps it's the end of the road for him because nobody's really going to want to put him on because he has the same injury. Yeah. So I think really he's pulled out of this. I can't see where he goes from here. But if you've got these injuries, then you're going to have to pull out of fights. But if you keep pulling out of a fight with the same injury, then you've got to probably call it a day. And you could argue the same thing with Danny Connor. Danny Connor pulled out the fight with Kay Prosper. Injured, but he's been injured a lot of times. So, like I said to Danny by text, if your body's giving up on you, retire. Yeah. I think he wants to carry on, but there becomes a point when promoters don't want to stage fights with people that pull out a lot because there's no
you lose confidence.
Because the chance of that fight happening becomes a lot less.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully that covers it for you. So that's all the questions. that's everything covered.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Johnny Garton.
Oh, fantastic! Well done, Johnny.
What a fight as well.
He deserved that though, because he's done it the hard way, and he's a gentleman in every sense of the word, and I was so happy for him.
I know, I sat Saturday night watching it and just had a big smile when he got lifted up by Bradley Skeet on his shoulders.
Fantastic for them all, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really nice, the whole stable, good people.
Yeah, because even Al Smith at the end was sat with the Charlie Wynn t-shirt on ringside doing the interview. I thought that's a class touch as well.
Just really good people, and nobody deserved it more than Johnny, so full credit to him.
And what a fight as well. It was
unbelievable.
Gary Corcoran played his part in it. He was exceptional. The whole thing was. It was
brilliant.
Really good. Enjoyed it. Excellent. So there you go. Thank you very much. We shall see you next week. Thank you for watching or listening if you go on the podcast.
Cheers.